Good morning, everyone. Hello. It's going to be like this, isn't it? There will be a chance to talk together in about 5-10 minutes. Hello, we're online as well. Hello, online. So this is, now we're in a new era. You're allowed to stare at your phone while you're sitting in a church worship service. It's okay. So you are allowed to have your phone out and chat to the people online. In fact, that'd be quite nice. Or shop at Amazon. No one will know. It's great to see everyone. I don't know if anyone's feeling slightly stressed. I am a little bit, but it'll be all right. So it's great to see. Now, there's some people here who have kind of never really properly been here. So I'm not going to look at anyone in particular, but if that's you, you're very, very welcome. We've been delighted the way the family has grown, and people have kind of joined in or seen us and thought, actually, I want to be part of that. It's been a great joy to have some other people join us, including Sweep the cat. He's here. I am sorry if you don't like cats. No. But, well, I am sorry, but I'm not kicking him out. So he's very friendly. He's also the local COVID super spreader. So you might not want to touch him if you're being careful. Kevin's now got it. Yeah. So that's Super Cat. It is great to see you all. There'll be a chance a bit later on just to have a chat either around. I'm sure I'm meant to be saying other things. Now, I am delighted that our first Sunday back, we got Ariola doing the talk. So it's not just me. Woo! Woo! Hey? That was me hyping you there. I think that's it. So we could have done something different, and I know it's Pentecost today, and we haven't really picked up on Pentecost, but because we're Baptists, right, we can do what we like with the church year. We leave that stuff to the potpourri people, all the yes. So we'll have no potpourri here. So we're working our way through Philippians, which is I don't want to preempt Ariola really, but it's a happy little book, isn't it? Well, I hope you've got the interesting chapter, because if not, I'm apologising for it. Anyway, do you want to just do it? Should we just... Oh, we've got some readings. So if you're online, you probably won't hear them. So are they from Philippians chapter 3? That's good. Yeah. So we're going to have a couple of readings from Philippians chapter 3. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'll just pretend that there's tricky stuff there.
That was powerful reading. Thank you so much, guys, for that. And it's so nice to see you all, and to be with you physically. And I love this because speaking on the camera is not easy. So it's nice to see your faces, and it's nice to, even though I can't see your reactions, it's nice to see you here, and nice to see that we are all here together. And I think that's one of the things I love about Philippians 3, is that we can all be here. When I was reading this, I was just thinking about the time and space in which Paul was writing. I have a slight criticism of Paul, if I could. It's like he calls people that he thought were not preaching the gospel, he calls them dogs. That's a massive thing to call somebody else, human, made in God's image. But he takes it really, really seriously. What he is saying is that people who think only about appearances, about rules, about lists, that they should not be controlling the way we live. They shouldn't be controlling our Christianity. They shouldn't be controlling the way we relate with Christ. And that for him was so important that he thought that those people were, I like the way Kevin did it so well, knife-happy circumcisers. They only cared about what was the norm. So maybe before you could come into church, they needed to see how your hat was. I don't know how many people have been to this kind of churches before. You have to wear a certain kind of skirt or a certain kind of look. You have to be a certain kind of way. You have to put on a happy smiley face. You couldn't come to God the way you were. You couldn't express yourself. Just imagine what that would be like. And there are many places like that. There are many, I was listening to something about the Dalai Lama, when you choose these people. Almost like Paul, isn't it? You have to be in a certain kind of family, born in a certain kind of way before you were chosen, before you were accepted. But you could all come here. I could come here. Anybody could come here. And that's what Paul was saying. Fantastic. And what he's saying basically is that we should come to God and focus on the goal of knowing Christ, knowing God personally. Yes, we come here and it must have been hard on our own, trying to be Christ followers, because you don't, when you come to church on a Sunday, you are making a particular statement, isn't it? You are saying, I'm following Christ, and with those, and with the lot that says I'm a flawed person. That's why I come here. I want to know God personally. Over the last 15 months, we didn't have to come to church, and all over the world. I don't know whether you have seen it. There's been all sorts of different versions of Christianity. So some people have said it's the government making us not come to church. They've taken the government to court. Mostly Americans, I'm sure. Sarah is smiling under the mask. So yeah, and they just made a whole big deal about how they need to be in church because, you know, that is what God wants. That's the list, the rules. And other people have said, well, we can worship God anywhere because we are God's temple, isn't it? We're Christ's. Yeah, in fact, God is in us. So whether we are in a small little room all by ourselves, or we are here together, or we are in a massive hall in Lagos with 60,000 people or 1 million people, we are still worshiping God. So it's the same thing. And that's been very, very important. Some people say you have to put on some particular robes to worship God. Some people, and all sorts of things have come up. Also, I don't know if you've noticed, the church has been shaking quite a bit in the last year. You've had lots of people who were, I would say, good examples in Christ that have failed. Our humanity has come through, and they just people who have made it sound as if they could do no wrong. And all of a sudden, I was listening to somebody this morning actually who was saying his entire faith was shaking because he thought that this person he almost took him like God. And what Paul is saying here is that nobody should be like that, and that our goal should be on knowing Christ more. And the second part, the one that I read, was basically about having just one goal, about pressing forward. So on the one hand, we are being told that we should not be legalistic. We shouldn't think about rules and following rules. We should come to God as we are. We should come to God and embrace the life He has given to us. On the other hand, he's not saying we should now sway all the way to 360 and be happy-go-lucky and not think about any what the consequences of following Christ are. What he's saying is basically that we should help each other, that we should think about how we can run the race. In the King James Version that I learned as a child, it says press on. And when you think of press on, it doesn't make too much sense because you're thinking of, okay, how much am I pressing on to? But recently I've been thinking about just taking baby steps. And I like the way during lockdown, we talked a lot about that, isn't it? Just facing the day. Don't think too much about, how you get through the next 15 months, because none of us need to be 15 months. But just think about how you get through today. And when you fail, you can come back to God and say, I have failed, and I want to start again. And the best way, I think, is C.S. Lewis that says that the best way you can do that is just keep turning around and continuing on the track. That we have the race is about God. Our goal is about knowing God personally, and that none of us, even Paul says it, that wrote half of the New Testament. I'm not an expert. None of us are experts. None of us know God completely. None of us are, superstars. That we are all in this thing together. We are all Christians on crutches of grace. And I love that idea that we should keep holding on. Thanks to Joe. I always keep saying that. But we should keep holding on and trusting God to take us day by day. It's a lovely feeling that God has taken us through this 15 months. Some of us are here physically. Some of us have gone to be with God. We're in heaven now. It's different. But still, we are here because God wants something of us. God desires that we should keep trusting Him in our earthly bodies and that one day, the key thing is not that we are men or women or Gentile or Jew. The key thing is that we're citizens of heaven. And if we're citizens of heaven, how should we behave? In a few months, some of us will be traveling, probably in a few weeks we'll be traveling, and we'll be using passports, isn't it? And you have to decide which passport, if you're like me, which passport you want to use, because some passports will not let you in. Like now, I cannot go to Nigeria. If some people will not let you in because you don't have the right paper, you don't have the right passport, isn't it? Because you're not qualified, you don't have access. But because we're Christians, we have access into God's kingdom. No matter how many times we mess up, no matter how many times we fail, our citizenship is in heaven. It cannot be taken away from you. Yes, we have long race to run sometimes. Yes, that race can be clumsy. Yes, we have to come back up, take steps that help us to keep running and pressing on to know who Christ is. And we can never really know him until we see him, but we need to just keep doing that. I was thinking of two stories while I was reading this, and I'll just share that quickly before we close. One is the story of David. David in the Bible, Old Testament king. We talk about David as if he didn't know wrong. Everybody, how many Davids are here? How many people are called David? A few Davids. This is a fantastic guy. Many people, David and John, isn't it? Everybody's named David and John. Well, most men are named David and John. And you think about David as a man after God's heart. God says he's a man after God's heart. But when we look at the 10 Commandments, there's almost no sin that David did not commit. Everything that we could do wrong, David did. But what he did differently was that he kept coming back. He was honest, he was open, he was transparent. And I think that's what the Philippians 3 is saying. When we say press on, that's what we mean. That we need to be honest, we need to be open, we need to be transparent. There's another story about another David. I think he was a doctor. Dr. Ferguson, he was a slave trader many, many years ago. But he was on the slave ships to check the slaves. And I find this story fascinating on so many levels because Dr. Ferguson came to Nigeria and he spoke about how he had heard many stories of how slaves were captured. He had heard many stories of the natives people, and he was not quite sure what he was going to expect. So on this particular ship that he was on, this ship got shipwrecked. So they needed help from the natives. This is southeast. It's by the Gulf of Benin. It's interesting to see what a slave ship is like because you think about a ship as something, I don't know, it's not piano. It's not you going into a nice cabin, and I don't know, going for karaoke and food in the middle. It's not like that. Don't think of it like as a nice little cruise. On those ships, they had racks basically, and in the racks they would put humans. This is very interesting to think about. Humans on the racks, each like sardines basically. So to make sure that they were fed, they would have a little hole on the top, like a slat. And every morning they will throw like porridge along the slat. And if your mouth was in the right position, you got some food. If your mouth wasn't, you didn't. To make sure that they didn't have to do a lot of cleaning, they put sticks up everybody's bum so that everybody you were just in that slat all the way across the Atlantic Ocean for months. And many, many people died. And Dr. Ferguson was on that slave ship. Then he was shipwrecked. He was a doctor. I don't know what he was doing, but he was a doctor. And he was shipwrecked in the Gulf of Benin, and he was scared. Because all he had heard was that these people were cannibals, they were going to eat them up, and he thought his life was finished. To his greatest surprise, this was around Calabar, they got him, the natives saved him, brought him to land, and they thought, who are you looking for? And somehow he was surprised that he was not eaten, and he was surprised that they took good care of them and sent them off to Lagos, where they were able to get back to England. He never went on a ship ever again. And a few years later, the Calabar mission started, and he gave 1,000 pounds towards that mission because of what he had experienced at the time. I'm just trying to imagine what it would be like as citizens of heaven, that all of us, no matter what we have done, compared to Dr. Ferguson, what have you done? All of us are citizens of heaven, compared to David. What? The point is, keep pressing on. And for us to do that, as Chelmsford Wood Baptist Church, you need to be gracious to each other. I will fail. You need someone that will embrace you. You need to embrace other people and carry them on. You need to help them, help us, help each other to press on. Because in that citizenship, when we all get to heaven, you will be with all of these people who have all messed up, who didn't have to keep rules, who could not keep the rules, and who were still saved because of what Christ has done for us. All of us are saved because of that. All of us are here because of that. So we are at the end of lockdown. It may be difficult to engage again with God, but many of us have done so well in our little bubbles of 5, supported each other, carried each other on our backs, prayed for each other, done the shopping, done the phone calls. Keep doing it. Let's keep our citizenship up. One day, it will all be over on this earth, and we'll be all together. David, Gideon, Moses, and us, because of the grace of God. So my real major thing for today, the key message I want to say is that we should live transformative lives. We shouldn't be those people who keep rules and lists, but the transformation should be in the idea that we are gracious to each other, and we know that God is being gracious to us. So God bless you. God bless you abundantly. God help you to keep on, to press on, to keep focused on the goal, and may we continue as a church to help other people around us to get on that path and keep pressing on. Thank you so much, and God bless you.